All right, everyone, good morning. This is, we want to welcome you to our BayREN Regional Forum. And the topic for our forum this morning is building permits and clean technology, innovations and challenges. My name is Demian Hardman. I'm going to be your co-host alongside with Barry Hooper. I'm from Contra Costa and Barry Hooper is from San Francisco Environment. We're very pleased to have everyone joining us this morning, and we have a stacked agenda with a whole lot of panelists. And well, why don't we get started? Next slide, please. All right, so before we get started with everything, we just wanted to do just some run through of the Zoom meeting how-to. So your video camera and mic may remain off. Please use the chat feature to interact with your panelists and participants. And then please use the Q&A function if you have questions or comments. So questions about anything with the panelists or anything like that. And then we will break for questions at the end of each session, and we'll have a panel Q&A. All right, next slide. And just if you're not familiar with Zoom, the Zoom meeting how-tos here, chat in the lower left-hand corner, you'll see the chat feature. Again, that's for you to chat amongst each other. As you know, we're doing Zoom, so it's we used to do these in person, and then you can, if you have questions directly about the content for the panelists or the presentations, you can do the QA function. Next slide. All right, so before we get started, I just wanted to take a few minutes to introduce BayREN. BayREN is a highly effective and trusted government organization that delivers trusted, integrated, and regional scale climate solutions focused on energy, water, and resiliency. BayREN's been around since 2013, so it's been around for quite a while, but the local governments and program managers that make up BayREN have been working on energy issues much longer. BayREN builds on the expertise and knowledge of the local governments, and we cover the 9 Bay Area counties, if you're not familiar with us. And there's all kinds of things that we do. Overreaching goals are building local capacity, solution-oriented, and climate change and resiliency as drivers, and also economic development. Next slide. All right, a little bit more about our programs for BayREN. We have what's called a Single Family Home Plus program. That's a rebate program for single family residents for energy efficiency upgrades. And then we have green labeling, which is basically a program where you can get your home assessed to get a rating score, generally speaking. And then we also have a multifamily rebate program called the Bay Area Multifamily Building Enhancements. And then we also have BayREN Business. So that's a new BayREN Business program that we just started launching where there's no cost incentive for participating in that. I recommend you check that out as well. And then Water Upgrade Save, which is water savings, and that's in certain parts of the Bay Area. And then what we're talking about today, our forum is on codes and standards. And for more information, you should go to our website at bayren.org. Next slide. Next slide. All right, just a little bit about our codes and standards efforts. We have 2 broad areas efforts, compliance improvement on the energy code and policy. So we like to, investigate areas or come up with innovative ways in which we can improve energy code compliance. And then policy, we want to share best practices around the region and what works and what's not working in terms of how we can help. For example, REACH codes is a good example of that. Next slide. And then we also have energy code training. So we have free live online trainings, and then you can also get ICC CEU credits for those trainings. You should reach out to your BayREN representative if you're interested in those trainings. You can also get those online as well. And you can, as it shows there, you can schedule sessions can be viewed that have been done at bayrencodes.org events. And then And then more, if you want more information on trainings there's a link there at the bottom as well. Next slide. Great. Codes and standards. Another feature that we offer is our municipal ZNE or zero net carbon technical assistance. This is for municipal buildings. So if you're interested in doing getting free technical assistance, no cost engineering analysis, we also offer that as well. Next slide. And then we also have this e-permit tool, which is a really interesting tool that we've launched a few years ago, and we've been making some adjustments to it. But it really allows you to, gives you some opportunities to see what's required in the energy code for some very basic, building permits like hot water heaters or roofing or new windows. And it's a really neat tool that a lot of jurisdictions are now adding to their web pages. There's several that have an interest. If there are jurisdictions that are interested, reach out to our codes and standards team. Next slide. All right, so for all presentations and materials, it'll be emailed you after the event, the forum, and I'll leave it at that for this part. Next slide. Okay, so our disclaimer. So the views expressed in these presentations are those of the authors and do not necessarily reflect the position of the Association of Bay Area Governments, the Bay Area Regional Energy Network, or the jurisdictions that BayREN represents. Any questions pertaining to the views and information in the presentation should be directed to the authors. This webinar is being recorded and will be posted to the BayREN Codes and Standards website. By continuing to participate, you are granting your consent. Next slide. All right, so this is just going to be a quick overview here. This agenda is going to break out everything that generally we're going to be covering today. We're going to do welcome and introductions, and then we're going to have panelists on building permits and clean. Well, actually, we're going to have a talk at building permits and clean technology, why we're here, and then from Barry Hooper, and then we're also going to be doing frontline COVID-19 and permitting, and that is going to be a panelist that with a couple of building departments that are going to talk about what they've done since COVID-19. And then we're going to do a best practices models, and you're going to hear from others that are doing some really interesting stuff that you can learn from for permit streamlining and some stuff related to, electric energy efficiency stuff that's for code compliance, things that are related to some really innovative things on energy compliance as well. And then announcements, we're going to do some announcements at 10:40, then we'll have a short break for 10 minutes, and then we'll be talking about evolving technology to the rescue. And we're going to have some people talk about some really innovative technology stuff that they're doing for permit streamlining and whatnot, or permit compliance as well. And then hopefully we'll end by 11:50 a.m. And we're looking forward to this event with everyone. Thank you. And I will pass it on to Barry Hooper to do the, yeah.
Fantastic, Demian. So each of the 9 Bay Area counties participate, and we all contribute, and we receive support from BayREN Programs. So we'd like to lead off by introducing ourselves and getting a little perspective from each county rep on the topic of today's forum. So Emily, I'm gonna ask us all to go in the order on the slide, other than you've heard from Demian, and you're hearing from me now that I'm Barry Hooper from the City and County of San Francisco. So Emily, would you mind leading off by introducing yourself? And then offering your thoughts, given that the disruption, the drama, and the tragedy of 2020, was there a silver lining for our work together in BayREN?
Hi, everyone. Emily Alvarez. I work for Stopways 2's the Alameda County BayREN rep. That's a big question. I was trying to think about it over the 24 hours or so that we've had to prep. For me, I think that just like in a lot of places in our lives, we've been this has given us an opportunity to reevaluate the work that we're doing and how we can really provide value to the communities. As we're not for-profit companies, we are local government. And so our job is to serve the people. And so how can we make our energy efficiency programs really meet the needs of folks, which might include more focus on health now because of COVID, or making houses more comfortable since we're all home, as well as really thinking about what our workforce needs. When permitting and construction was shut down for a few months, we work so much with that local community who's out there doing energy efficiency. And the last thing we wanted was for that kind of sector to just crash because of COVID. So I think that's been a silver lining, to really think more about how we can meet the needs of our community.
Thanks, Emily. So Jay Paul, you're relatively new to our program. Thanks for joining us. So still going to put you on the spot though. Could you let us know a little bit about yourself and share your thoughts on whether there was a silver lining in all the difficulties that we've experienced in the past year?
Sure, thanks, Barry. Good morning, everyone. J. Paul Harrington, Solano Economic Development Corporation, and I am your BayREN rep for the County of Solano. So from, I guess, our economic development perspective, what we found as the pandemic prolonged was that our cities and the County of Solano were doing everything within their power to streamline the processes and create flexibility for the small businesses that were feeling the most strain during the pandemic. As an example, restaurants, they gained access to sidewalk dining, which allowed them to extend their space and allow them to maintain the needed revenue. And as a result, it was, loss mitigation for the loss of businesses and jobs. So by streamlining those processes and making it easier for these businesses to stay open, jobs were saved, incomes were maintained. And so if there was any silver lining from, our perspective, that would be it. So thank you very much. Thank you all for being here, and I hope you really find some value in the forum today.
Thanks, Jay Paul. All right, Denise Lynn from San Mateo County, you're up. Did you find can you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about whether you found a silver lining in your work and our work together from the difficulties of last year?
Sure, thanks, Barry. Hi, everyone. I'm Denise with the County of San Mateo Office of Sustainability and your San Mateo BayREN representative. With COVID, I know that there have been a lot of challenges that have been thrown. For example, on the topic of permitting towards the building departments, I know it's been a challenge for us all to adapt. But I think one silver lining has been being able to share educational opportunities. So I know with the BayREN program, we adapted our trainings to be online so that when one jurisdiction schedules a training on an energy code topic, that we're able to share that with everyone else in the Bay Area. So I think that has been one silver lining, where we are able to join in these virtual rooms and learn about energy code compliance topics together more freely and kind of build that muscle within BayREN.
Thanks, Denise. Callum, could you tell us a little bit about yourself and whether you found some gains and maybe a little silver lining in the tragedies and difficulties of 2020?
Yeah, hi everybody. My name is Callum Damon. I work for Marin County in the Community Development Agency on the sustainability team. I've been with BayREN since 2013. So I think, like most counties are going to share, we've been able to shift some of the BayREN offerings, specifically our energy code trainings, to building departments online, which has been helpful. Once projects got rolling again, kind of midsummer last year, building departments were very busy. They're still very busy. So offering that flexibility by putting trainings online, I think has been important. And more generally speaking, a lot of counties, when there's a big fire, or of course the pandemic, our emergency operations centers are open, and a lot of staff are made to work on disaster response, and that's really allowed us to break down a lot of silos. I've personally worked with people in other departments that I haven't before, and so it's enabled us to more integrate energy efficiency into other government programs, which I think is good for building government capacity, which is one of the the core goals of BayREN.
Awesome. Deborah Elliott from Napa County, excuse me. I'd love to hear you introduce yourself and share what you might have gained or your team might have gained and learned through the difficulties of 2020.
Yeah, good morning, everyone. I'm Deborah Elliott from Napa County, and I'm the local BayREN representative. And I think one of the things, especially related to codes and standards, is, as others have said, bringing things online and keeping them online, being able to just shift our in-person meetings to Zoom, and being able to keep that connection while other kind of more local connections have dropped off. We've been able to keep the regional connection through our regular codes calls, our reach code calls, and our forums and trainings. So that's been a great way, I think, to keep us moving forward during this difficult time.
Thank you. Last among our counties, but definitely not least, Brenna Boyle, could you introduce yourself and share with us, what you might have gained or your team may have gained in the difficulties of 2020?
Sure. Good morning, everyone. My name is Brenna Boyle, and I'm with the County of Santa Clara Office of Sustainability, and I'm your local Santa Clara County Codes rep. Similar to what others have mentioned, I think the silver lining for me related to our codes work was the ability to offer virtual trainings for building departments. And particularly in Santa Clara County, there are some very large cities, so it can be hard to coordinate the logistics of simply getting everyone in the same room for trainings. And with virtual trainings, that wasn't an issue for us. And just want to make sure we don't forget about Christine with Sonoma County.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Christine with Sonoma County. Could you introduce yourself, please?
Yeah, my name is Christine Condon. I am with the County of Sonoma General Services Department, Energy and Sustainability Division. And I am the Codes and Standards rep for Sonoma County. And I have to just echo what everyone else has said, is the development and the quality of online offerings has been just, I think, astronomical over the last year and a half. And the organizations that I work with, many of them intend to keep a lot of those remote practices in place, including virtual inspections for code compliance, development of online libraries of trainings and other forums and meetings. So I think there's been a real silver lining in that area in regard to accessibility and quality of online offerings.
Fascinating. And so you've heard from all 9 Bay Area counties, and each of us are a representative to the Codes and Standards program, but joined by other colleagues that we collaborate with and that directly contribute to the work. But I'd like to also introduce the person who herds each of us cats. Karen Christensen, do you mind introducing yourself, please?
Thanks, Barry. Yeah, I'm Karen Christensen. I work at ABAG MTC and I lead the Codes and Standards program for BayREN. And I have to just echo what a lot of folks have done here. I think we all have always offered the forums with an online component, so that transition wasn't quite as difficult. But the pandemic made us offer our trainings virtually as well, which was a big lift. But once we got it figured out, I think it's been great because it's made it a lot easier to expand our reach and include people from all over the Bay Area and people from all different building departments. So it has been good, and now we're trying to figure out what to do when we can go back to in person, because it is nice to see people face to face also. So I think we're going to go to some kind of hybrid model, but we're working on figuring that out. Anyway, thank you.
Thank you. Let's go to the next slide, please, Juan. So what we heard from our colleagues across the Bay Area is the expansion of the fact that adaptation to the conditions of the last year required some innovation, some rethinking of policies and approaches, and it provided some opportunities. So we've actually had greater overall participation in our BayREN forums in recent quarters, and we miss being able to be with all of you in person, but there's been that benefit. There's online, and so just online connection has been of a lot of value, as well as the breaking down of silos, as we have necessarily contributed to preparation for the disaster response. And so today we're trying to take a deep dive into those ideas and questions to ask how the adaptation of processes for permitting and inspection may have also offer some lessons learned and opportunities for advancing common objectives across the counties. So permitting and inspection, of course, are a balancing act. It's essential. Building codes are essential to safety and protect the public from the hazards of unsafe construction, and ensure the conservation of resources and protection, of course, in the case of the energy code, from excessive utility costs as well as improvements in reliability. But that is a balance that building departments continuously work to set with the urgency of providing the benefits that we build buildings for, as well as meeting longer term goals, particularly with relation to the climate. Next slide, please. And in recent years, those questions about the climate have really come to the fore and been very proximate and visceral for each of us, particularly in Northern California. We've experienced and are experiencing drought, widespread wildfire, and those are definitely exacerbated by climate change, and that's contributed to public desire and political pressure to accelerate the adoption of energy efficiency measures to reduce our contribution of buildings to climate change, as well as in clean technologies and renewable energy to supply the energy necessary to build our buildings with fewer or no emissions. Next slide, please. We also, of course, face the greatest public health emergency in a century, and it affected all of our society, including, of course, the administration of building codes throughout the Bay Area. Many Bay Area jurisdictions had been experimenting or had online permitting offerings prior to 2020, but there was a huge difference between the need to maximize physical separation among people versus experiments primarily in the interest of efficiency. And so we did learn a lot from that process, and we're going to hear directly from people who've experienced it. Experimenting with online permitting is a lot. The transition to entirely online permitting turns out to have been a lot easier said than done, and a lot easier to imagine than to accomplish. Inspection has also been deeply impacted by the complexity and uncertainty of ensuring safety of both building department staff and the public. Next slide, please. At the same time, those pressures to address climate change are communicated to us in local government, not only through our local objectives and activities, but through the state policy. In particular, there have been a number of laws in recent years directly mandating improved transparency and streamlining or simplification of the process of obtaining building permits for photovoltaics, electric vehicle charging, battery storage. And both of those issues are again before the legislature this year for potentially renewed mandates for acceleration. So I think today's discussion would provide a lot of context for that. And with that, I'm going to pivot to our first discussion, a fireside chat hosted a little bit away from the fire today, necessarily by our own Demian Hardman. So please take it away, Demian.